Hey YouTube, it's Sky Basher here. I'm going to bring you a video of what I do to all of my RCs right out of the box. I will go through 4 key things that I do to make my experience of owning the vehicle last longer, be more enjoyable, and just all in all cost less money on repairs. I've got a new big rock back here. A guy at work decided to get into the hobby. We talked him into getting a big rock to start with. So stick around and check out what I do to this. Here we are with a brand new big rock. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start on the body. And what all you need for that is some drywall tape that's got the adhesive back. E6000. You'll need a decent hot glue gun. One thing I mentioned before you get started on this, you want to make sure that all of this is clean in here and free of any residue from the molding process. Take some rubbing alcohol and just pour right in here. And just take a paper towel, clean everything up really good. So at this point, you just start peeling you off some tape. Cut it to length and lay it in here. And I'll just basically go over the whole body and do this. And once I get each piece in, I'll take the glue gun and run a bead around it to try to hold it in place. Now I'll let this cool just a minute and I'll just keep on with the process. I've got the drywall tape all in there real nice. What you do is you just run you some E6000 down through here, rub it in real good, try to make it as even as you can, and that's all you do to it. And from here you just smooth it out. You just want to make sure you get a nice even coat in here, and I'll do the rest of it off camera and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Body all wrapped in the drywall tape, E6000. And we'll get some black plastic dip and spray this about 4 or 5 coats worth, and this part will be done. All right, we've got about 5 coats of plastic dip on it. Body looks really nice now, a lot thicker, should last a lot longer. Alright y'all, so what we'll do next is we'll go through the truck and check all the fluids, the shock oil, the diff fluids, and make sure we've got plenty of grease on the crown and ring gears. So I'll do some of this off camera, but I'll show you from the factory sometimes how skimpy they are on those fluids. Stick around and check it out. To get started with this, I'll go ahead and pull the power module out of it. And this module up here, get all that out of the truck so I can work around it easier and check everything out. With all that out of the way, I can move the truck around a lot easier and work on it much better. So as you can tell from the factory, there's not a great deal of grease inside this diff housing. Get some good automotive grease and fill up this diff case. And as you can see here, if it'll show up in the camera, that diff is only about 1/3 of the way filled up. Entirely for sure what it comes with from the factory, but I put 60K in my big rock. It seems to work out fine, so we'll finish filling this one up with 60K diff fluid. You just want to leave a little bit of room in here for these pins and this gear to go in. So I've filled it up just almost to the top. That should be sufficient. When you run these screws in with a power driver, just run them in a little bit snug and finish it off by hand. You don't want to strip out this plastic. That has a real good feel to it. I think that's perfect. We'll get this greased up, put back in the front, it'll be done. I like to make sure I've got a good coating of grease in there because as it heats up, it'll run around in there. The back one, quite dry also, hardly no grease on it. crack this diff open, see what it looks like. Here may have had a quarter of the fluid it should have from the factory, so we'll fill it up with 60,000. Just put in the back, we'll be done with that part. Got both the front and the rear diffs done. We'll move on to the shocks and check them out. The first shock off, it is very low of oil. You probably can't see that down in there, but it's about half full. So we'll add some, probably 55 weight, and I'll go ahead and get all 4 of these done. Be right back. All right, we got all the shocks back on. Every one of them was just a little bit low of oil. They feel much better now. So the next thing we'll do is we'll take these stub axles out of the end and put thread locker on that screw inside, because I did have one to run off on my big rock, and I don't want it to happen to my friend, so we're gonna fix this too. So what you have to do here is take this short axle out and remove this stub and Loctite it back in, because usually they will come loose. It was already a little bit loose. A little Loctite in it, then reinstall it. You do that to all 4 corners. The next thing we're going to do is just go over both of these, make sure all the screws are tight in the servo, and I'm going to pull this back off here, make sure that the screws going into the motor plate are nice and snug. I'll likely go ahead and remove those and make sure it's got the red Loctite on it. So we'll check it out from the factory. The mesh actually feels real good. I can just barely feel a little play there. We're still going to pop this off, take a look at it. While we've got this out, I'm going to check the slipper clutch, make sure it's adjusted correctly. The way I like to do that is just take the drive shaft, make sure you got the little red piece in, put it on the input side, hold this, and if you can turn this too easily, it needs to be tightened up. I'm just going to give it about 1/8 of a turn, check it again. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay, it does have some slip to it, just barely, so that's what I want, that's what I'm looking for. Put some good red thread lock on here, make sure these motor mount screws don't come loose. All right, when you're adjusting the mesh on these, you can't really tell it unless you've got this back plate on, just how loose it is. But if it rocks back and forth like that, you can't really tell what the mesh is like until you slide this cover on. So I like to slide the cover on with the bearing and just feel right here on the spur gear. It's got just a little bit of play and it feels good. If you try to adjust your mesh solely by doing it like this, you'll never get it right. So always put your cover on and check the play in it. Something else I'll do while I've got this power module out, I'll get some black electrical tape and wrap around these connections real good. That helps them quit coming unloosened when you're bashing real hard, and also protects them against this heat sink here from rubbing through. So I'll get it wrapped up with tape, and then we'll put all this back in. All right, guys, that's the project complete on my coworker's big rock. Just kind of a quick overview on what we've done. We went through the body, and we've done the E6000 and the drywall tape. Completely reinforced it. It's much stronger than stock. We went through all the fluids on here. We saw that the differentials were low on fluid and grease, so we filled those up, took care of that. Took care of the shock oil issue. They were a little bit low from the factory. Then we checked the mesh on the motor and put some red Loctite on it to ensure that it won't come loose. And one little trick I done right here is I took some black tape and kind of wrapped around these connections here to keep them from vibrating loose and also protect them from the motor heat sink. And we just went over the whole rig and checked all the screws, and everything is good to go. So these are a few things you can do to all of your RCs to provide you with the best experience possible. It doesn't take long to go through and do the things that I've done today, and if you do, I promise you, it'll be much better in the long run. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Have a great day.